The St. Louis Cardinals will be looking for someone with the resources and the need for third baseman Nolan Arenado. And once again, it is a familiar name that is popping up as a possibility for a deal.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafron, a former national radio sports anchor, born and raised in St. Louis and a lifetime Cardinals fan, and I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. A big thank you going out to our everydayers for being here with us during the regular season and now the off season. And for those of you who are new, welcome. Welcome in. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving you all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. On today's episode, we will be discussing the future of former Cardinals MVP Paul Goldschmidt, who spoke about his plans after his Yankees got eliminated last night. We've got another hypothetical trade scenario involving the Cardinals and the New York Mets. But we're going to start today with a quick hit on news about Yadier Molina, because according to a report from El Vocero, I think is how it's pronounced, El Vocero. I don't speak a lot of Spanish, guys, but this is from Puerto Rico. It's a publication there. Molina told them right now we're in contact with St. Louis to coach the Cardinals and help Marmol. He'll still be the manager. He's still the manager, but I'd be there by his side. Nothing is concrete yet, but we're working on it. So that is certainly something that we're going to keep an eye on moving forward. Never hurts to have, the GOAT in the dugout with the Cardinals. It was nice to see him do it a couple times this past year. And, he said that he wants to become a major league manager at one point, and that he's not against becoming a coach first before becoming a manager. Ollie's got one more year left on his deal. Yachty in the dugout. Is this coming together the way we think it will? Maybe. We'll see. He could end up going to somebody else and become a manager if things don't turn out the way we think it'll go. But anyway, that's the news about Molina right now. When more of it becomes available, obviously we'll pass it along to you. Now let's talk trades, shall we? We had one that we discussed on Tuesday involving the two teams I mentioned, the Mets and the Cardinals. And that one had to do with a swap of Wilson Contreras for Mark Vientos. Fan reaction kind of split on that one because of the defensive issues surrounding Vientos. We love our defense in St. Louis, and the fact that Vientos sucks at defense is not something that a lot of people were very excited about. Also, fans love Wilson Contreras. The loyalty he's shown, the respect he's earned, the energy he brings to the team. Pretty good first baseman this past year, both offensively and defensively. So today's trade involves another guy that fans love for a lot of different reasons, but the writing is on the wall yet again between the club and Nolan Arenado. Now, Nato would love to play for a team that is currently competing for a world championship instead of a team whose main focus is rebuilding the farm system and working on the player development and looking to go younger and presumably cheaper, although, again, we haven't heard much about payroll yet. Moving Arenado is not going to be easy. We know this. We just went through it this past offseason when we thought he might get dealt then. He's an aging player. Offensively, he's been declining for a couple of years now. He's been injury-prone recently. Still has a decent chunk of change left on his deal. Not quite as expensive, but still a decent chunk. What he does provide, a positive from Nolan Arenado, is still an outstanding defensive third baseman, still one of the best in the business, is a future Hall of Famer, good attitude, solid team player. And who knows, maybe he gets on a winning team and that could reinvigorate him to become better than what we've seen offensively over the past couple of years. You get guys out of certain situations and sometimes they prosper. Maybe that's something that would happen with Nolan Arenado. I'm not completely sure, but we'll see. Chaim Bloom has said, though, that, hey, we're not just going to give this dude away. If nothing works out and they don't find a good fit for both the Cardinals and for Nolan, that they don't have any issues with him coming back again next season. They hold no ill will against Nolan Arenado. It's not like we're trying to kick this dude out of town because he sucks and he's a bad guy. That's not the case whatsoever. Trying to do each other a solid, really, to try to move on from some of the money, open up a spot over at third baseman. Nolan Gorman is like, please, dude, just go already. Anyway, so the Mets are a team that is looking to make some changes. They want to do things differently, according to reports, than what they had this past season. Defensive upgrades are something that seem to be a top priority. It's being brought up a lot. That's something Nolan Arenado can certainly bring to the table. Still very good defensively at third base. The Cardinals are looking for starting rotation upgrades from what they got this past season from Miles Mikolas, Andre Palante, obviously Eric Fetty. We are assuming that Sonny Gray is still back in this particular scenario, that he's not going to leave to go along with Matthew Liberatore, Michael McGreevy. Those are the only three spots that I'm just going to concede as those are filled as of right now for next year. Palante obviously still needs to show a ton of improvement before I even let him near that rotation again, or he's out. Kyle Leahy is another name that's been brought up, will likely get a chance to become a starter. But right now he's still a bullpen arm at this moment. So here's the proposed deal between the Mets and the Cardinals. The New York Mets would get Nolan Arenado, and the St. Louis Cardinals would get left-handed starting pitcher Sean Manaea, right-handed pitcher Jonathan Pintaro, and cash. Now, Bleacher Report talked about this particular idea, and they had this to say as to why it makes sense for the Mets. They say there's a lot the Mets need to address this winter. John Heyman of the New York Post isn't wrong to see the defense as a potentially overlooked priority. Per their minus 12 outs above average, they had a bottom 10 defense this season. This alone should give the Mets some level of interest in Arenado. He's a 10-time Gold Glover who remains a strong defender at third base, posting a +3 outs above average this season. It's Arenado's bat that has declined in recent years, which is not unexpected for a 34-year-old who has been around for as long as he has. But he's still good for pulling the ball in the air, which would play well at Citi Field. Whereas Arenado was picky with who he was willing to waive his no-trade clause for last winter, he's a bit more open this time around. That, in turn, could be an opening for the Mets, who should also be attracted to his burning desire to win. Now, when we discussed the Wilson Contreras trade to the Mets, one of the key aspects of that was his defensive abilities at first base, which is still wild to think about considering, he just made the switch last year. Just shows you how well he adapted to playing first base and, how well he played there this past year. But talking about Nato to the Yankees this past year, one of the reasons I thought he might go there, because I don't really see Arenado as a New York type of guy. But one of the reasons why he might consider a move to New York, and when we were talking about the Yankees this offseason, was because his buddy Paul Goldschmidt was there. Now, Goldie's a free agent, just finished his season with the Yankees. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Maybe the Mets could grab both of them to make life a little more comfortable for Arenado. Just throwing it out there, just a possibility. If you're just going to move on from Pete Alonso and let him walk, you want to upgrade defensively, you could do worse than the Arenado and Goldschmidt duo at first and third base when it comes to your defense. Offensively, you're going to take a hit for sure. But that's kind of the thought process on the New York side of things. We here at Locked On Cardinals, we're more concerned about the Cardinals side of things, right? So why would this make sense, or what is it about this trade that would be attractive for the St. Louis Cardinals or unattractive for them? We'll get into that next on Locked On Cardinals. Guys, you probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried these products, which, good for you. Good for you for taking a chance. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Go Long. Rougiette Go Long is not just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for your confidence, which is key when it comes to situations like this. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula, so you can go the distance and you can be the best man you can be. The effects can last up to 36 hours, which means when the time is right, you'll have confidence all day, all night, even a little extra to go into the next day if you need it. The process, very, very simple to get your hands on this product. Connect with a board-certified doctor. It's 100% online, too. You don't have to make a trip to the doctors. And if you're prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. Nobody's going to know what it is except for you. Are you ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Well, if so, head to reshape.com. Use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet, spelled R-U-G-I-E-T, RUGIET.com. Promo code, one word, LOCKEDONMLB. And make sure to use our code. That way they know we sent you. Get back on the field with confidence at Rugiet.com. Thanks again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you enjoy daily Cardinal content, then you can follow the podcast on X at @LO_Cardinals. We're also on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at Locked On Cardinals as well. Would love to see you. Give us a follow on all the social medias. Sean Manaea. All right, this is a guy that, at least in my eyes, he's been linked to the Cardinals for years. For years. Back to his days when he played with the Oakland A's. Here's the thing. 2024, he's a veteran now. In 2024, he was 32 years old and had arguably his best season as a pro. He went 12-6 at a 3.47 ERA, had career highs in innings, tied his career high in starts, had a second highest strikeout total. The ERA plus was a solid 114. And I remember, because he got like on this hot streak and everybody's like, oh my gosh, what did Sean Manaea do? All of a sudden they got him back on track. And I remember they were talking about it. It was like just changing his arm slot was something, and it just made the movement on his pitches look different. And he was outstanding for the Mets in 2024. So he opted out of his deal with New York, refused their qualifying offer, and ended up signing a 3-year, $75 million deal to stay with them. Made sense for him financially, right? Seemed like a pretty good move. 3 years, $75 million, not a super long-term deal. Looked like a good move. But then he gets hurt. In February, he has an oblique strain. And we know how oblique strains can just linger, and it takes forever for them to heal. This thing sidelined him for a very long time. He didn't make his first start until July. Things didn't go well either. 12 starts here in 2025. ERA of 5.96, although the strikeouts per 9 were still very strong at 11. We know the Cardinals would love to get their hands on a reliable pitcher. They've got, obviously, a couple of openings in the rotation right now. The only real seasoned veteran in the rotation at the moment is Sonny Gray. Sean Manaea made 32 starts the previous season, was very good. Injuries screwed things up, derailed his season quite a bit this year. Is he worth the risk with the 2 years remaining on his current deal? And he's also got like a bunch of deferred money until 2044. So, I mean, obviously you'd have to work something out money-wise with what's going on with Arenado's deal, what's going on with Manaea's. So it's certainly debatable on whether or not this is actually worth the risk, which is why we're talking about it. But here's what Bleacher Report had to say on why this idea would make sense for the St. Louis Cardinals. The idea behind the trade is that it would be a bad contract swap with the money going from New York to St. Louis, meant to balance what's owed to the two players. The Cardinals could then look to flip Manaea either during the winter or in 2026 after hopefully he bounces back from an injury-marred year in which he had a 5.64 ERA. Pintaro, who was the other pitcher mentioned in this trade, would be a deal sweetener of sorts for the Cardinals. Mid-level prospect at best, but he has 3 above-average pitches, and he has at least profiles as a specialist after holding righty batters to a 597 OPS in the minors this year. Now, Pintaro is not just some rando throw-in guy. You know, Pintaro is actually the Mets' 17th ranked prospect, according to MLB Pipeline. He is 27 years old already. But, you know, he's a bullpen arm, so that's okay. 27 doesn't bother you. And the 3 pitches that they mention on Bleacher Report was also brought up in his scouting report at MLB Pipeline, which they say about it. He has got a pair of fastballs in his 4-seamer and sinker, which sit around 93, 95. And he relied on the latter, a relatively newer pitch, more in his time at AAA. Also has a mid-80s changeup, gets a healthy amount of whiffs, and an 82, 85 mile an hour sweeper gives him a longer glove side option. We know the Cardinals love their sweepers. So, we know how important bullpen arms are. We know how important they can be. And if you are possibly moving Kyle Leahy to the starting rotation, that's going to be another spot that needs to be filled. Right now, from the right side on the Cardinals 40-man roster, you've got Riley O'Brien, Matt Swanson, Gordon Graceffo, Andre Granillo, Ryan Fernandez, Jorge Alcala, Chris Roycroft, and Roddery Munoz. We've seen the back end of those names falter quite a bit. They were not very good last year. From, say, Fernandez, Alcala, Roycroft, and Munoz, those guys kind of interchangeable right now, in my opinion. I feel like they want to see if they can get Fernandez back on track because they've seen him be all right in the minor leagues last year. When he got sent back down, he had a lot of issues in the major leagues. Was not so bad down the stretch at the end of last year. But to add a fresh arm like Pintaro, it's not going to hurt anything by any means. It just gives you another possible guy to put into the bullpen. There's no problems with that whatsoever. There was also a reaction write-up about this particular trade idea and why it wouldn't work, which was done by Josu De Jesus at risingapple.com, who pointed out that the lack of offense from Arenado would make him a non-upgrade overall, even if his defense is good, because he's not hitting anymore. It's not really going to help them that much. He also pointed out that the trade wouldn't add much financial relief for the Cardinals, nor does it give them much as far as prospects in return, which he assumes the Cardinals would rather have than somebody like Sean Manaea. And then the Mets already have somebody to play third base, and his name's Brett Baty, who's been one of their top prospects for a couple of years now. And they already have him to play third base. On this particular trade, he did say to trade for Arenado now would be to actively displace this success story with Brett Baty, creating a roster logjam while committing massive financial resources to a position that is already occupied. It's a move that may have made sense 2 years ago, but in the current landscape, it feels entirely redundant and contrary to the team's forward-thinking roster construction. Personally, my issue with this deal, as far as what it does for the Cardinals or what it doesn't do, is really the money side of this with Sean Manaea. If you're trying to move on from the money that you owe Arenado, just replacing it with another guy isn't exactly what I think the Cardinals are going after. But at the same time, if you believe that what you saw in 2025 from Sean Manaea was just injury-marred season, not really who he is, he should be more like the 2024 guy, you could do worse than flipping Arenado for a guy that you would have under control for a couple more seasons and another bullpen arm. And then you could also, as they mentioned, you could use Sean Manaea as a trade chip. It's not like he's got a no trade clause. You could use him as a trade chip at the deadline next year if things aren't working out for the Cardinals. But if they are, that's great. He's a guy that, like I said, just a couple years ago, 32 starts. He was fine. He just had a stupid oblique this past offseason, which really derailed things. So I know it's very Eric Fetty sounding like. It's very similar, but the difference here is I trust Sean Manaea's track record much more than I did Eric Fetty's one good half of pitching in the major leagues with the White Sox. Like, I remember when they talked about getting Eric Fetty, and I'm just like, this has got Cardinals written all over it. And I want you to do better than Eric Fetty. They settled. They only got Eric Fetty. It didn't work. It sucked. It blew up in their face. He's now with the Brewers. Congratulations, Eric Fetty. He might be moving on to the NLCS here very soon. But what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on this? Would you be cool with a deal like this for the Cardinals? Arenado, for Sean Manaea, you get the reliever arm in Pintaro, plus you get some cash in return from the Mets is what the proposal was. If you're not cool with this, what bothers you about it? What are your concerns? Let me know in the comments section and on X. We can discuss it in an upcoming episode because we got plenty of time this offseason to discuss things like this, which is part of the reason why the offseason can be fun because you get to speculate and kind of play GM, and we like to have some fun with it here at Locked On Cardinals. So hit me up. Let me know what you guys think. We're going to talk some playoffs next. Playoffs. It's in my head every time I say it. Every time I say it, I hear Jim Mora saying playoffs. Anyway, we're going to talk about former Cardinals MVP Paul Goldschmidt. Spoke about his future after his Yankees got eliminated last night. I'll tell you what he had to say about it coming up next on Locked On Cardinals. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. You get the energy, you get the crowd, you get a chance to see your favorite players and team live in person. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, no matter what sport we're talking about. We got the Blues are opening up tonight. Very excited to see the Blues back on the ice. But getting tickets to go see these games, that can be the tough part. You got to deal with the queues, the login screens, the surprise fees. It takes all the fun out of buying your tickets, and that's why I use Game Time. You should too. The app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's fast, it's easy, it's backed by their Game Time guarantee. That means you get 100% authentic tickets every single time, delivered on time, and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. You're going to know your total up front. There's no sneaky surprise fees at checkout where everything like doubles out of nowhere. I hate that. You hate that. Don't deal with it anymore. Go to Game Time. They got zone deals. Those are amazing too. Game Time's faster, cheaper, less stressful than any other way you can buy tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. And let's go Blues. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night until the World Series champion is crowned. You're going to get local analysis, but on a national scale. You can find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB's YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your podcast. And let me just throw this in there. Locked On Blues. Go see our girl Haley. All right. Does good work over there with Locked On Blues. Going to have everything about the upcoming hockey season, including tonight's game. She'll be ready to rock and roll. Hopefully she got a brand new jersey because she got screwed on whatever she bought at because the new jerseys for the Cardinals, whatever, or for the Blues, the new sweaters they got, she bought one and it was a knockoff. It's terrible looking, so you have to hit her up about it. Anyway, let's talk about the playoffs. Blue Jays finished off the Yankees on Wednesday night with a convincing 5-2 victory during a bullpen game, no less, for Toronto. Paul Goldschmidt, the 37-year-old former NL MVP with the Cardinals, spoke after the game about his future and said, "I think I'd like to continue playing, but I hadn't sat down and thought about it. I was expecting to continue to play here and all that, but I still love playing. I still have fun out there. I still want to try to go in, love to compete. So we'll have to see what happens. I'm thankful for my time here. I don't know what the future is going to hold. I just try to give everything I have every day. My fortune really came up short." He signed a one-year deal after the Cardinals decided not to bring him back. It was worth $12.5 million to go play for the Yankees this year. This was a move I was on board with. It was time to move on from Paul Goldschmidt and see what else we could do. They ended up moving Wilson Contreras over there, and it worked out just fine. Paul Goldschmidt was not a complete bust in New York. Goldie, he was solid, all right? He played in 145 games, so he answered the bell when you needed him. Hit 274, which was a nice jump from what he was doing last year with the Cardinals. He had 31 doubles. Cut down on his strikeouts big time. You remember 173 whiffs with the Cardinals in 2024? We're like, what the hell happened to his contact skills? He found them again with the New York Yankees. Only struck out 100 times, had 100 less plate appearances than he did with the Cardinals, but 100 less strikeouts or 73 less strikeouts is pretty significant. But he did only hit 10 home runs. All right. We know the Yankees ballpark, it's a little small down the lines and stuff. And yet he only hit 2 home runs, was at 22 the previous year with the Cardinals. He only drove in 45 RBIs. OPS plus was at 104, so a smidge above league average. He was at 100 in 2024 with the Cardinals. The slugging is down. The power is down. Still decent with the glove over first base, so I'm sure he'll land on his feet. Somebody will need a first baseman of some sort, a veteran first baseman, and you could do much worse than Paul Goldschmidt. Maybe a reunion in Arizona would be in order. They traded, Josh Naylor to Seattle this year, so could that be something that happens? I feel like that would be a very cool full circle moment for Paul Goldschmidt if he ended up with the Diamondbacks again. So we'll see. Phillies offense woke up, took care of the Dodgers. Free agent to be Kyle Schwarber hit 2 home runs, one of them a 455-foot smash as the Phillies dominated LA 8-2. Tommy Edman drove in both Dodgers runs in this game, one with which at the time was the go-ahead solo home run off Ranger Suarez, which was, right-handed Tommy Tanks, man. And then he also ended up hitting in the 9th inning. It was a broken bat dribble. I still don't know how it made it to the outfield in the 9th inning. 53.8 miles per hour exit velocity. Sometimes it's where you hit it, not how hard you hit it. So that worked out for Tommy. But in the end, the Phillies stay alive for Game 4 in LA. Will take place tonight, Thursday night, depending on when you're listening to this. And it's going to be a hell of a pitching matchup. Christopher Sanchez against Tyler Glass now. The Cubs also stayed alive, hanging on to beat the Brewers 4-3. Michael Busch. Bro, this dude hit another leadoff home run for the Cubs to tie things up in the first inning. It was a record-setting dinger, too. Busch not only became the first Cubs player in history to have 2 leadoff home runs in his postseason career, he made MLB history as well, making him the first player to have a pair of leadoff blasts in the same playoff series. There was a crazy stat here, too, about this. The Cubs have scored 8 of their 10 runs through 4 games in the first inning. They scored all 4 of their runs in this 4-3 win in the first inning, while managing only 2 runs combined from the second inning on. And the 4 runs in the first on Wednesday ended Chicago's MLB record streak of 13 consecutive playoff games with 3 runs or fewer scored that went back to 2017. So the offense for the Cubbies, it barely did enough in this one. They'll have Game 4 on Thursday night or tonight, again, depending on when you're listening to this, at Wrigley with Freddie Peralta against Matthew Boyd. Yeah, but Michael Busch, I mean, we saw the damage he did to the St. Louis Cardinals in 2025. Not looking forward to having to facing that dude again in 2026 and beyond. How about the Detroit Tigers? Came back from down 3-0 to the Mariners and facing elimination. They ended up scoring 9 unanswered runs to win their game on Wednesday to force a Game 5 back in Seattle on Friday. And they'll have their ace, Tarek Skubal, back on the mound. The Mariners have had a lot of success against Skubal this year. But the Mariners don't have Brian Wu, who is their ace. He's dealing with that pec injury. So that stinks for the Mariners, which was the team I picked to come out of the American League to go to the World Series this year. And now they got to beat Skubal again to advance. Not exactly ideal by any means, but that's what's happening with the playoffs. Thank you guys for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Obviously, we'll keep you up to date on anything that goes on with this Yadier Molina story that's starting to build some momentum as we start to hear more about him possibly being a full-time coach with the Cardinals next year and being a part of Ali Marmol's staff moving forward. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. If you haven't already, give us a follow on X at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio, TikTok and Instagram at Locked On Cardinals. We'll get you updates up there. Please like, subscribe on YouTube. You can help our channel and our love for the Cardinals grow. You guys are the best.
You are Locked On Cardinals.
Hit the wrong button. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason, and we will see you next time on Locked On Cardinals. Apologies there. The Molina talk got me all excited.